Every Barndominium video you've ever watched has lied to you a little. Not on purpose, but when a creator shows you a $180,000 dream home with vaulted ceilings and a waterfall island, they almost never show you the utility hookup bill, the insurance quote that came in higher than expected, or the moment 6 months later when the owner realizes they built the wrong version of this house for their actual life. I'm Mason. Today isn't a home tour. Today is the honest version. The real costs nobody puts in the thumbnail, the pros and cons people only admit to after they've already moved in, and a build style almost nobody talks about that solves the biggest regret most Barndominium owners have. If you want more of these honest breakdowns instead of just a highlight reel, subscribe and turn on the bell. Stay to the end, because that last part, the hybrid build, is the one decision that determines whether you love this lifestyle in year 1 and still love it in year 10. Most people don't find out about it until it's too late to change their plans. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what a Barndominium costs in 2026, the honest trade-offs nobody puts in a highlight reel, what daily life is like once the cameras stop rolling, and whether a hybrid build is the smarter move for your situation. Let's start with the number everyone actually came here for. What does this really cost in 2026? The baseline. National averages put Barndominium construction at $85 to $150 per square foot, depending on region, finish level, and whether you're hiring a general contractor or acting as your own. That's meaningfully lower than the $130 to $180 per square foot typical of traditional stick-built construction. For a 2,000 square foot home, expect roughly $170,000 to $300,000 for the structure alone. A steel frame build near Amarillo, Texas, the kind of open plains post-frame shell that's become almost iconic in this space, can land at the low end of that range. A finish-heavy version outside Nashville with shiplap ceilings, a custom range hood, and a walk-in pantry lands much closer to the top. The part nobody shows you, what almost never makes it into a home tour video, is land and site work. Well, drilling, septic systems, electrical service runs from the road, driveway grading, all of it separate from the build cost. In rural areas without existing utility access, this can add $30,000 to $75,000 before a single wall goes up. People see a $180,000 Barndominium online and don't realize that number often excludes the $45,000 it took just to make the land buildable. One owner in rural Missouri, the Fielding family, a fairly typical case documented in several Barndominium build logs, budgeted $190,000 for their shell and interior, then spent an additional $52,000 getting water and power to a plot that looked deceptively ready on the listing. The insurance surprise. Insurance is the other quiet cost shift. Some insurers still classify Barndominiums differently than traditional homes, which can mean higher premiums or a smaller pool of carriers willing to write a policy at all. This varies significantly by state and by insurer, so it pays to get quotes before you're financially committed, not after. A homeowner isn't just buying a house when they buy a Barndominium. They're buying into a category insurers are still catching up to. The financing wrinkle. Then there's the money to build it in the first place, and this is where a lot of first-time buyers get caught off guard. Traditional mortgage lenders are comfortable with conventional stick-built homes because there are decades of comparable sales to lean on. Barndominiums are newer to that system. Some lenders treat them like any other single-family residence once they're built and appraised. Others require a construction loan that converts to a permanent mortgage once the home passes final inspection, which usually means a larger down payment, often 20 to 25% instead of the 5 to 10% some buyers expect. A couple building outside Boise found that their first 2 lenders wouldn't touch the project at all, and their third required a 25% down payment because the appraiser had limited Barndominium comps in that county. That's not a reason to avoid building one. It's a reason to shop your financing early, before you fall in love with a floor plan you can't yet get approved for. Permits and timeline. Permitting is the last piece that quietly shifts cost, mostly because it shifts time, and time is money on any build. Some rural counties have minimal zoning restrictions for post-frame structures, which is part of why Barndominiums took off in agricultural regions first. Plenty of counties are tightening those rules now, as barndominiums shift from a farm outbuilding category into a primary residence category. That can mean additional inspections, engineered stamped drawings, and impact fees that didn't apply 5 years ago. Building in 2026 generally means more paperwork than building in 2020, not less. Budgeting an extra 4 to 8 weeks for permitting in a county still updating its code is a realistic expectation, not a worst-case scenario. None of this means barndominiums aren't more affordable. They generally still are. It means the affordability gap is smaller than the thumbnail suggests, and the surprises live in the line items nobody puts on camera. Real talk for a moment before we keep going. This next part is where most barndominium content either oversells the dream or undersells it out of fear. I'm going to try to do neither. Let's talk about what it's actually like to live in one. Pro, the open floor plan. Massive, uninterrupted living space without load-bearing interior walls. Great rooms with 12 to 16-foot ceilings that would cost a fortune to replicate in a traditional custom home. Take a floor plan like the one used in a lot of hill country-style barndos in Central Texas. A single 900-square-foot great room combining kitchen, dining, and living without a single support column breaking the sightline. Con, the open floor plan. That same openness means sound and smell travel everywhere. There's no natural buffer between the kitchen and the bedrooms unless you specifically design for it. Several owners named this as their #1 regret in the first year. Not because the design failed, but because they didn't plan for it. Picture frying bacon at 6 a.m. in a house where the primary bedroom sits 40 feet away with nothing but open air in between. That smell isn't staying in the kitchen. Pro, durability. Steel and post-frame construction is engineered to withstand high winds, heavy snow loads, and pest damage that wood frame homes simply can't match. Many are rated for 50 to 150 years with minimal maintenance. In tornado-prone regions like Oklahoma, this durability isn't a marketing line. It's the actual reason a lot of families are choosing this construction method over conventional framing. Con, durability. That durability depends entirely on proper insulation and moisture management. Steel conducts temperature fast. Without spray foam insulation done correctly, condensation can build inside the wall cavities and go unnoticed until there's real damage. This isn't a flaw in the building type. It's a flaw in cutting corners on insulation to save money up front. The strongest shell in the world still fails if what's inside the walls was never sealed right. Pro, design flexibility. Quartz countertops, farmhouse sinks, floor-to-ceiling windows, spa-style bathrooms. Modern barndominiums look nothing like the rustic barn and loft image people still carry in their heads. A design like the Cedar Ridge floor plan, a popular layout style featuring a wraparound porch, black-framed windows, and an oversized kitchen island, reads more like a modern farmhouse feature in a design magazine than a converted barn. Con, resale perception. Depending on your area, some traditional buyers and even some appraisers still undervalue barndominiums compared to conventional homes with similar square footage and finishes, simply because comparable sales data is thinner in some markets. This is improving every year as the category grows, but it's a real factor if resale timing matters to you. An appraiser working off 10 years of ranch house comps in your county may honestly struggle to price a barndominium fairly, even a beautifully finished one. Pro, build speed. Post-frame construction generally goes up faster than traditional framing because the structural shell doesn't require the same layered process of foundation curing, wall framing, and roof trussing in sequence. A crew experienced with steel frame barndominiums can often close in a shell in 6 to 10 weeks, compared to 3 or 4 months for a comparable stick-built home. For someone renting while they wait to move, that shaved-off time is real money. Con, build speed. That speed only holds up when you're working with a crew that specializes in this construction method. A general contractor who's built plenty of traditional homes, but only 1 or 2 barndominiums can end up slower than a standard build, not faster because they're learning the material and the sequencing as they go. The advantage belongs to specialized crews, not to the building type by default. Checking a contractor's actual barndominium portfolio, not just their general home building resume, is the difference between 6 weeks and 6 months. Pro, Energy efficiency. With the right insulation package, typically closed-cell spray foam against the steel skin, barndominiums can be remarkably efficient. The open floor plan helps here too, since HVAC systems only push conditioned air through one large volume instead of fighting through a maze of small, separated rooms. Con. Energy efficiency. That efficiency comes with an upfront cost a lot of budget breakdowns leave out. Proper spray foam insulation for a 2,000 square foot shell typically runs $8,000 to $18,000, depending on region and coverage, and it's not the place to shop for the cheapest bid. Fiberglass bat insulation costs less going in, but it performs noticeably worse against a steel frame's temperature swings, which shows up later as a higher monthly utility bill for the life of the home. The savings people brag about in year 3 exist because they spent more in month 1. None of these cons are deal breakers. They're planning problems. Every single one gets solved by knowing about it before you build, instead of discovering it after you've already moved in. Costs and trade-offs matter, but the title of this video says living, so let's talk about an actual Tuesday. Morning in open concept barndo means the whole house wakes up at once. Coffee grinder, someone's podcast, a kid's cartoon on the TV across the room. There's no closed kitchen door to contain any of it, which some owners genuinely love and others find exhausting by the second month, depending on how many people are living under that roof and how early they get up. Midday, if anyone works from home, the great room doubles as an office more often than people expect going in. A dining table becomes a desk. A kitchen island becomes a second monitor stand. It works fine for solo calls. It gets complicated fast with 2 people on video calls at once, which is one of the quieter reasons hybrid layouts with a dedicated closed office have picked up demand over the last 2 years. Evenings are where the open floor plan earns its reputation. Cooking, homework, and conversation happen in the same field of vision instead of 3 separate rooms. Families who prioritize that kind of togetherness consistently rate it as the single feature they'd never trade away, even the ones who complain about the morning noise. And overnight, HVAC zoning becomes the quiet MVP of the whole house. A well-designed barndo splits the great room and the bedroom wing onto separate thermostat zones, so the living space can run warmer during the day and the sleeping area can run cooler at night without fighting each other. Skip that zoning to save a few $1,000s up front, and you'll notice it every single night for the life of the home. That's the part of Barndominium living nobody puts in a listing photo. Not the countertops, but the rhythm of an ordinary day inside the layout you chose. Notice that recurring theme in the noise, the video calls, the temperature swings. There's a build style that answers nearly every con from the open floor plan at once, and it's the part 1 told you to stick around for. A hybrid barndominium isn't a different structure type. It's a design philosophy. Keep the open concept living, dining, and kitchen areas that make barndominiums feel spacious and modern, but intentionally section off bedrooms, home offices, and utility spaces with real walls and doors instead of open sight lines everywhere. This is what directly answers the cons from Act 2. Sound and smell containment get solved because bedrooms sit behind real walls instead of open zones. Insulation performance improves because smaller enclosed rooms are easier and cheaper to condition precisely than one massive open volume. Even resale benefits because hybrid layouts read more familiarly to traditional buyers and appraisers, since the floor plan logic resembles a conventional home more closely while still keeping the dramatic great room that makes barndominiums desirable in the first place. Picture a layout like the Sawmill hybrid plan, a design that's gained traction across several post-frame builders in the Midwest. The front 2/3 of the house is one soaring, open great room. Walk past the kitchen, though, and there's an actual hallway with a door at the end of it, leading to 2 bedrooms and a home office, each fully enclosed. You get the dramatic, photo-worthy space at the front of the house and real, sound-contained privacy in the back. There's a second version worth mentioning, the split-zone hybrid, where the entire home is divided into 2 structural halves under one roofline. One side stays fully open for living and entertaining. The other side is framed more conventionally, room by room, for sleeping and working. A build outside Bozeman, Montana used this approach because one owner worked night shifts and needed a bedroom that was truly dark and sound isolated from a household that was awake and active during the day. That's the real test of whether hybrid framing matters to you. Not whether you like the aesthetic of an open great room, but whether your daily life requires acoustic separation somewhere in the house. If you're talking to a builder about this, ask specifically to see their hybrid floor plans or use the phrase zoned open concept. Most post-frame builders have at least one in their catalog now, even if it's not the plan featured on their homepage, because it isn't the photo that sells the click. It's the layout that earns the second and third referral once a family has actually lived in the house for a year. The cost difference is minimal, typically just the framing and drywall for a few additional interior walls, often just 2 to 4% more than a fully open layout. For that small premium, you keep almost everything people love about barndominium living while removing the majority of the regrets people report after year one. This is the detail almost nobody puts in a video, because open concept photographs better than thoughtfully zoned. But the owners who are still thrilled 5 years and are disproportionately the ones who built some version of this hybrid approach. So, the honest version stripped down to 3 decisions. Cost. Meaningfully more affordable than traditional construction, but budget for land, utilities, financing, permitting, and insurance separately, not as an afterthought, because those line items are where the real surprises live. Pros and cons. Every con on this list, the sound, the insulation, the resale perception, the contractor learning curve, the upfront insulation spend, is a planning problem, not a structural flaw, solvable if you know about it before you break ground instead of after you've moved the furniture in. And the hybrid build. If I were building today, this is exactly what I'd do. Keep the open great room, but zone the private spaces on purpose. It's the small decision that separates the owners still thrilled in year 5 from the ones who quietly wish they'd done one thing differently. Go back to that opening image for a second. The dream home in the thumbnail without the invoices sitting behind it. The truth isn't that the thumbnail is fake. It's that it's incomplete. A barndominium can absolutely be the smartest, most livable decision you make this decade. It just needs the same thing every good build needs, whether it's steel or lumber. The full picture, not just the highlight reel. One thing I'm curious about, if you're planning a build, would you go fully open concept, or are you leaning hybrid after hearing this? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one in the first 24 hours, and it shapes which builds and breakdowns we cover next. If you want the honest version of this lifestyle instead of just the highlight reel, subscribe and turn on notifications. We break these decisions down every single week. See you in the next one.